Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and before I'm going to pop off some arrows, I had an idea to talk about, and that is how to predict seasons as a prepper. This could be useful in case you are perhaps stranded in a wilderness, at least at the northern half-front, or just during a shitty defense scenario where you cannot rely on data from electronicals, satellites, and etc., internet, that kind of stuff. So yeah, but before we start, if you're interested in my book called Bloody Crosses, it's a detective series. It's in Dutch. If you're interested, take a look in the description to the link. All right. So predicting seasons. There are several ways to predict seasons, and the most obvious one is have a calendar. And I'm first of all talking about a calendar like a paper one, like one that you either can take each page off, or one that is a full calendar and you can look at it and point it and write on it. So yeah, if you have one of those and there is something like a solar storm or EMP or whatever is taking out electronicals, at least you will have that to keep on the days. And yeah, why would this be important, you say, in this scenario? Well, if you are a prepper and you are going to have a garden to maintain or something, then it can be very handy to know when the seasons are, and you can lose track of time very much if you don't have something that keeps reminding you. And this is especially during such a great scale disaster or shitty defense scenario. So, of course, calendar. Second, I would say is even if you don't have internet or the grid is off in that way, if you have a way to power something simple like a computer, laptop, a cell phone, you will always have access to uh, a digital calendar. Yeah, it's in the agenda of your of your cell phone and stuff like that. So yeah, even if you have a small solar hand crank generator or a solar panel or something like that, you can charge up a cell phone, and then you have a calendar in that regard. And usually these kind of calendars are going to like 40 years later on, so that could be very handy, and that is something that is a benefit over the paper calendars, which are usually made for only a few years in advance. uh, Another thing you can do is learn astronomy. If you can read uh, the stars, the line of the lineage of the planets, and that kind of stuff, you can predict the seasons. And it is something that people in the past, in during history, have done always to predict when they have to plant seeds, get harvest, and that kind of stuff. And that is very essential for agriculture. What you also can do is learn not only from astronomy books, but if you have one of those, I'm gonna put this down for a second, or if you have one of these are sort of star map that you can turn, and you can point it and learn it that way. And you can also get the right dates to it, because the stars are in always aligned in certain dates. So that's also a handy tool to learn about the seasonal by looking at the stars. I'm not proficient at it, I'm still learning from it, and yeah, you got to have a keen eye on it and live in a place where there is not much light pollution. So that could be a downfall if you live close by or in a city if you want to learn this. Um, Another thing you can do is watch for signs in nature. There are several signs in nature that can give you signs which season is coming or in which season you are. There are simple ones, for example, the length of the day. In wintertime, days are shorter, summertime, days are much longer. That is obviously when the sun is up late or goes down late, or goes early up or early down. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Another thing I would say is look at the seasonal plants. There are several plants that grow in certain seasons, and you can also look at these and look between seasons. There are certain plants that you only see growing between, um, for example, spring and summer, and that is, for example, like a May. In Dutch we call it a Maiklok. Is something that always a sort of flower that grows during Easter, that kind of stuff. So that is an example of one of those plants. Um, all right. Another thing you can look at is um, trees. If you look at the trees, yeah, in autumn, trees loses its foliage. During winter, they are bald, so to say. During spring, they start to bloom, and during summer, they are at their best. So that's also a good indication in what season you are in. For example, another thing is looking at just animals. Animals are usually change their colors. Some for example, during mating seasons, they perhaps get more brighter colors to attract females. During uh, um, some seasons, they change color to be more camouflage certain types. For example, deer. For example, yeah, deer are a good example for that. Another thing that they do is migrate. Migrating birds, for example, if you watch at which are coming at which season, in certain seasons they are gone, in certain seasons they are coming up for the first time. So that's something that you can look. Hibernation, certain animals hibernate. Look at squirrels, certain type of rats or ground, not groundhogs, but I forgot the English name for it. Bears, for example, but here we don't have bears. But there are a lot of animals that are going in hibernation. Um, Another thing is look at bodies of water. If you live in certain areas, you will notice that, especially if water comes from high up, there are certain places that during when the snow of the winter start to melt, the water goes down lower in valleys or lower layer areas, and that way lakes can get more water. The level is going up. Rivers also, so that's something that you can look at to see which season are there, and especially in flood areas, perhaps. Um, Another thing you can do is just the smell. You know the saying that smell that spring is in the air. There is a reason for that, and that is there are certain smells from nature that can indicate some that spring is coming. For example, the blooming of certain plants, flowers. You can. There's a big difference in that if you watch it carefully. Pollen. Certain peoples are allergic to pollen, and yeah, if they get a pollen allergic reaction, yeah, usually they are then it's starting to get spring or summertime. So that's also example. A certain smell of rain. There is a certain smell between rains in spring and summer and autumn. I don't know how to explain this, but it's something that you can smell the difference in. Yeah, these are all ways to, and especially if you watch it each year, I would advise you to, during each season, go outside, take a long walk, and try to watch all these little signs. And if you watch it carefully, you can learn the difference as if you keep busy with it, because most people just go in their day and they don't even look around them. But like I said, with the smell, for example, there are certain patterns that you start to get of recognition, deja vu, as you will, if you go to the same areas where you live, perhaps, and take in the different uh, smells, sounds, even noise, perhaps. For example, when frogs are starting to breed, is something that you can see here in different seasons. So yeah, these are all signs that you can take in, train yourself with it, get familiar with, and yeah, uh, and learn from it. Because, like I said, if you sometimes you need to learn all these signs if you are going to be stuck somewhere for a long time, if you are doing gardening for your preparedness plans, and all that kind of stuff. And I want to also to warn you. Uh, I don't know if many people will have noticed this, but all the wait, excuse me, I had to let it rip. All right, where was I? Ah, yeah. In case if you learn from books, for example, from gardening, uh, in the last years, I have noticed that uh, when I started to grow certain plants, they did not grow in the seasons, not in the seasons, but on the timetables that you usually plant them, because the weather is out of control now. Certain times are just very dry when they used to be very wet, or warm when they were cold, or colder when they were hot. It's like all the climate and weather is shifting in a way, and that is something that's helped me in my survival plans, especially with my gardening, that I do certain things later on, and that helped me a lot in a way. So that's something that you also need to watch out for. If you have information about certain timetables, that kind of stuff, make sure that they are aligned with the current weather, that you don't read a book from 10 years ago when the weather was still a little bit more within certain timetables. So yeah, that's something that you need to watch out for. All right, I'm going to pop off some target practice with some archery, and I hope you find this video interesting, learn something from it, and will take you on a sort of mindfulness kind of way of looking now at around you. So, like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and see you in the next video. Cheers.